Is Bakugo the GOAT? Bakugo has always been one of the main characters in the series, in the main cast, so of course people have been speaking about him. But how strong is he at the end of the series? I'm not going to go through everything because obviously there's tons and tons of panels of where he's fighting, so I'm just going to go through the biggest moments. Alright, let's get into it. In the first war, we see he fought Shigaraki along with Endeavor and Deku, and this is where he had the biggest attack, I guess, at least in terms of area of effect. You can literally see it skyrocket up into the sky, all the way up into the sky. And that was against First War Shigaraki, whose body was comparable to Anti-Symbol, the same character that survived getting punched into space by USJ All Might. Yes, he was also compared to All Might, but as we see, that comparison literally gets debunked the next panel. A far credible source tells us that he's not quite on All Might's level. That's when we see Aizo compare him again to Anti-Symbol. After that, we see him sacrifice his own life to save Deku when he gets that evolution and explosion, and literally reacts to Last Age All For One's Rivet Stab, which is definitely fast enough to tag All Might. Last Age All Might, which is extremely... This means technically, even though Deku was definitely the strongest physically in that war, you could argue that Bakugo was the fastest by far in that war arc. But here is where it gets crazy. Bakugo in the second war, the final war, he fights Shigaraki along with Mirko, Edgeshot, Best Jeanist, some of the strongest heroes basically. Before Bakugo's second evolution, he lets off an explosion. Keep in mind, this is a condensed explosion, which means that he was trying his best to compress it into a small area. And that explosion is bigger than the UA Sky Dome itself. Before Deku, the main character, came into the equation, he was the only one who actually did damage to Shigaraki. This Shigaraki at least was stronger than Stars and Stripe. Who did this? And at best, stronger than Prime, All For One, and All Might. Doesn't seem so though, and I'll explain why later. But to still be bare minimum stronger than Stars and Stripe at this moment is crazy. Obviously later we see Shigaraki completely outclass him, and that's when Bakugo gets that evolution, where even then he's shown making moves that Shigaraki cannot comprehend. This is full cluster, where Bakugo's clusters in his body that allows him to use this explosion are pretty much going through in his entire body. Which means not only have the explosions gotten stronger, but now they've covered his entire body so he can move in them. It's pretty much like full cowling with One For All, but with Bakugo's explosion. So it's very, very useful. Although we don't get an exact why, it could have been because of Bakugo's earlier condensed explosion. We do see a good change in weather across the Oasis from Bakugo. Could have been just from full cluster moving for all we know, but it is not specified. Still pretty crazy to think about. Anyway, after this it gets even crazier. Kid All For One, I repeat, Kid All For One, who at this point is still stronger than Shigaraki by his own words. He hasn't surpassed him yet. And it's funny, since people like to use the statements of All For One, quote unquote, being in Shigaraki's body, saying, oh, this is Prime All Might, this is Prime All Might, to say that All For One's word is valid, but then completely disregard All For One's word and saying that he would be able to take him on. Even if you don't like that statement that I showed earlier, he literally says that because Shigaraki isn't taking it through Warp Gate, that he's going to have to do it by force, and he's still saving up that power so that he can forcefully give it to him. Which means even up to that point, he still believes that he can physically overpower Shigaraki, or at the very least stand a chance. And then again, somebody might make the argument, oh, just because he says that doesn't mean it's the author's intent for them to believe that it's true. And yes, while that can be true for some statements, the same applies to that argument where people say that, oh yeah, Deku's definitely Prime All Might level by now. He's definitely Prime All Might level by now. But I'll save that for another video. Moving on, post-revival, Bakugo wakes up when All Might is about to get Gojo'd by All For One. And not only does he blitz him, but he takes both of his arms off all in the same instant. This same All For One that has arguments for being superior to the guy that he just lost to. So yes, this full cluster post-revival is no joke. We see him and Kid All For One go at it, and he's Tokoyami victim. Literally blasting him into buildings, catching up with him, blitzing him, slamming him. We see Kid All For One let out one of the biggest attacks we've seen in My Hero Academia. This could potentially be all the quirks he has mixed together all into one shot. And if you consider this all of his AP stacks from ever, Bakugo gets upscaled like crazy. But even if not, Bakugo masters full cluster. And as he's doing this while he fights All For One, He completely negates Omni Factor Unleash with one shot. And keep in mind, Bakugo's doing this under complete strain because he just got revived not too long ago. And he's now fighting one of the strongest characters in the verse right off the wake. So yeah, it is extremely crazy. And keep in mind, people say that, oh, he only won because he got timed out. Oh, All For One was already getting reduced anyways. He was losing time. It doesn't matter because he used his strongest attack on him and he one-shot negated it. That attack was taking up the whole lane. Damn near bigger than the land. And he still one-shot negated it. As for how strong the attack was, that's anywhere between a Stars and Stripe level attack to a Prime All For One All Might level attack and beyond. Or in scalar terms, for cross verse, it gets crazy. Bro is packing up a lot of new gems also. And yeah, I mean, I don't know about Gojo because of that infinity thing, but yeah. Back to My Hero, he's definitely packing up these movie villains you see too. End of series Bakugo, he's packing them up. And don't even think about adding All For One to that from that Two Heroes Rising movie. That's a done deal. Movies or no movies aside, he is most definitely the strongest single quirk holder in the verse, which means excluding All For One, One For All users, all that. If we're talking single quirk holders, he's the strongest in the verse by far. These other guys do not compare at all. I don't like him as a character, but it's definitely awesome to see him grow as a character as he went from literally telling bro to go do that, to showing brotherly love to Deku and literally risking his life for him, then later finally apologizing for all those days. Even from a battle shonen standpoint, as he was once the talent guy because he was blessed with such a good quirk, slowly become the hard work guy because he got compared to these unreal multiple quirk people, All For One and One For all these people storing these quirks, and now he became this hard work guy with just his one quirk becoming the strongest single quirk user in the verse. To top it off, at the end of the chapters, as we see Deku is no longer a hero, he does have a hero suit which cannot surpass his limits, and Bakugo is already stronger than Shoto, as Shoto does have a weather feat, but that was shared through a collective amount of time which we can't quantify. Bakugo has his own single weather feat, and much more. So with that being said, with all these heroes already out, or not stronger than Bakugo, he's definitely the strongest by the end of the series. Thank y'all for watching, and if y'all want me to do more, I'll be here. Just gotta let me know. I'll be pumping out those videos. Thank you.